A win for Namibia's wildlife. Taking care of nature. On a cold pre-dawn morning in Namibia, Africa, a small group of men sit and chat near a campfire. When a call comes, they jump into field vehicles and roar into the bush. What are they after? Giraffes, lions, and other wildlife or game. These men are native game guards, not hunters. They are part of a massive effort to count wild game. Armed with maps and navigation devices, they crisscross the country, observe animals, and track them. The trophy they bring home is the latest population counts of zebras, baboons, elephants, and other wildlife. It's all part of Namibia's effort to conserve and protect their wild animals. In many African countries, elephants, lions, and other animals are losing out in conflicts with people. This is not the case in Namibia. The 2010 game count showed rising numbers of zebras, rare giraffes, rhinos, lions, and antelope. John Kasauna, a Namibian conservationist, pinpoints the heart of this success story. People take care of what they own, he says. To understand this conservation effort, it helps to know about the land that supports these extraordinary creatures. A desert land. Hot, parched Namibia is the driest country south of the Sahara. Deserts lie on either side of the farms, and towns on the central plateau. The coastal Namib Desert is the driest, with towering sand dunes, rough mountains, and gravel plains. The Kalahari to the east has dry savannas or grasslands with few trees. Many wild animals have desert adaptations, or features that suit them to these dry conditions. For example, some rhinos can live for days on moisture from thick-leaved plants. Desert elephants have larger than usual feet. Good equipment for crossing soft sand. In blistering heat, an antelope called a gemsbok can raise its body temperature. This keeps it cooler than the hot air and stops it from sweating. Namibia is twice as big as California, but its population is small, just 2.1 million people, about 6 per square mile. Such a sparse population means fewer human-wildlife conflicts, a big plus for the animals. Conflicts threaten wildlife. Namibian wildlife hasn't always fared so well. 50 years ago, South Africa ruled the country according to policies of apartheid, or separation of people by race. These policies put people and wildlife under a serious strain. First, the government allowed white landowners to hunt game on their lands, but took the same rights away from black Namibians. If black farmers killed a gemsbok, they could be jailed for poaching or hunting illegally. This angered people who had long traditions of hunting for meat, for food, or for trade. Then the government crowded black farmers, the majority of Namibians, into a mountainous area in the north. With too little land to farm or herd livestock, these families began poaching to survive. At the same time, a few privileged officials received special permits to hunt protected wildlife, while black Namibians were punished for hunting game. The trophy hunters freely slaughtered rhinos, elephants, and big cats. Animals at the brink. In the early 1980s, racial tensions boiled over and the destruction of wildlife spiraled out of control. By then, Namibia was fighting for freedom from South Africa, and the struggles concentrated in the north. Roaming soldiers shot animals for food, local farmers poached on a large scale. Then, gangs of outside poachers arrived and stepped up the slaughter. They killed elephants for their tusks and rhinos for their horns, items worth fortunes on illegal world markets. In a few years, this hunting rampage destroyed 90% of the wildlife. To add to this, in 1980, Namibia had a drought, a long period of little rain. Most of the livestock died. Desperate farmers hunted the small herds of animals left. They killed starving predators that threatened their families. Before these nightmarish conditions ended, only 6 black rhinos and fewer than 20 lions remained. About 300 elephants survived, along with 2,000 cheetahs and 10,000 antelope called springbok. The combination of human conflict, racial government policies, poverty, greed, and drought had taken its toll on the animals. In 1982, the rains returned to Namibia, and herds of zebra and antelope began to rebound. At the same time, local conservationists formed an emergency group to save what little wildlife remained. They met with the village headmen to find good people whom they could pay to protect the wildlife. In 1983, leaders picked their best men, many of them poachers, and named them community game guards. The expert poachers turned guards went to work. They stopped illegal hunters and kept track of the number of wildlife. they also promoted conservation in their villages. Very quickly, the situation improved. As people started feeling ownership over wildlife, wildlife numbers started coming back. Within a few years, most poaching stopped. Conservation champions. When Namibians won their freedom from South Africa in 1990, they wrote environmental protections into their constitution. They also gave control of the local wildlife back to native families. A few years after that, they enabled farmers to organize wildlife reserves called communal conservancies. Here, farmers could manage their wildlife and use it to attract business. Many conservancies began hosting ecotourists, travelers interested in wildlife and conservation. Today, 64 conservancies cover 17% of Namibia, an area as big as Louisiana. Up to now, they have earned $27 million for schools, healthcare, electrification, and other projects. Thanks to these and other efforts, the North now has about 130 lions, 800 elephants, 4,000 cheetahs, and 160,000 springbok. Nationally, about 1,400 black rhinos roam free. This is our new economy, an economy based on the respect of our natural resources. And this is the good news from Africa that we have to shout from the rooftops.